Well, hello. We talk to a lot of companies about why it is that they use our software to get compliant and stay compliant, meaning that they're following all the HR laws in the US. Um, but it's a lot more than that. So I thought I would just kind of high level go through what life looks like if you're not using a platform to solve this, as well as sort of the benefits of using software to solve this problem. So every company that operates in the United States has to be compliant with the HR laws, the employment laws. It's not optional. It's not one of these things where you to like, oh, geez, I'm just going to like choose to do that. And if you're not compliant with those laws, what ends up happening is governments will come in and audit you, and they will fine you, and you'll have to pay money. And then there's the fallout of that because it's really bad because they put your name on a list that's on the web and everybody can go see that you're not compliant. Or what happens is that you end up getting sued by an employee for something that they're upset about. And they go to a lawyer, and the lawyer reaches out to your company and discovers that you're not compliant. And as a result of the fact that you're not doing some of the things that you're supposed to, the amount of money that you have to pay to that employee just goes up, up, up. And it's all based on mistakes because the lawyer says, hey, if we go to court right now and I walk up to a judge and I point out that you're breaking all these laws, how do you think that's going to go for you? So it doesn't even matter that the employee that's suing you is suing you for something that you may not have done. What matters is that you weren't compliant and therefore you were unable to reduce risk. So based on all of the things I just talked about, let's just discuss how things look today versus the way that they could look. So the way things look today is there's over 1.5 million laws in the US. And those laws, if you were to take them and put them in a big warehouse and organize them, you'd have four just stacks of law. You'd have these types of law: codes, regulations, agency guidance, and cases, court cases. And if you were to stack those up and then read every single one of them, which we've done, and you were then to ask the logical question, which is, okay, based on all of these laws, what is it that I need to do as a company? That breaks down into 6 things that need to be done or need to be provided to employees. There's either policies, which are rules that you have to share with employees. There's procedures, which are step-by-step things you need to do. That could be things like, what do you do when you fire somebody? What do you do when you hire somebody? What are the questions you're allowed to ask when you're interviewing somebody? Documents or forms that employees need to fill out. Agreements are things like legal agreements and other things that need to be signed. Notices and posters are published by the government. They're the big notices and posters that inform people that need to be either physically posted or shared digitally. And then there's training, which needs to be provided to employees depending on where you're located. So if you go through this process, it actually, the tail end of it is somewhat simple because there's only 6 things that really need to be done at a high level in order to be compliant and reduce risk. Now, here's where the trouble comes in. Most companies either guess, meaning that they don't really know what needs to be done, and they kind of hope and pray that what they're doing is good enough. Maybe they've got somebody on staff that did HR before. Maybe they've got somebody that they talked to. Maybe they were told, hey, go ask AI because AI can possibly answer these questions. Well, here's the fact. If you go to AI and you ask AI, you should try this. Ask AI how many employment laws there are in the US. AI will tell you that it doesn't know. It will tell you that there's not an actual number. And that means that AI doesn't have all these laws. It hasn't separated these laws, and it doesn't know the things that you need to do. So when you go into AI and you ask it to create a policy or to create a procedure, what have you, we're still guessing. And AI is also guessing because it doesn't have all these laws to look at. You may have been told that, oh, what I need to do to be compliant is a handbook. Well, handbooks contain policies and sometimes procedures, but they don't contain all of these other things. And the other issue with handbooks is the way that they're designed today is you have a physical handbook with a signature page. And sometimes people put that page at the front of the handbook. Sometimes they put it at the end of the handbook. And there's no way to prove to a court that your employee actually read and understood each individual policy contained in it. Most handbooks contain anywhere from 30 to over 100 unique policies that either have to be there or are optional. And if you can't prove that an employee actually read and understood it, in court, the court will take that handbook and basically treat it like it doesn't exist. Over here, you might hire an HR lawyer thinking, oh, the HR lawyer will get all this stuff done. Well, Many HR lawyers are very bright and they can do some of the things that you need to have done. But what they don't do is monitor and stay on top of these 1.5 million law changes and then proactively reach out to you and let you know when to update things. And what they don't do is to provide a handbook that has the individual acknowledgments that are needed for your people. They provide you a document with a single signature page, right? Many companies decide to wait. Let's just wait until we're sued or something bad happens. That doesn't reduce risk and it's not being compliant. It's like the least good option of the things that are being done right now. Or somebody comes in and says, hey, let's hire more HR people, which means that you need to find an HR person who somehow has a time machine, a cloning machine, can travel back in time, do all this on their own, monitor, read all this stuff, which would take them years. I know because we have a team of attorneys at our company. It's taken years to get through all this information. So none of these options that are currently being done today actually allow a company to be compliant and actually reduce risk. So let's talk about how you actually do that. The first would be setting up something called a workplace profile. So within our software, and whether you're doing this with our software or you're just trying to do this on your own, the workplace profile is a list of questions that must be answered in order to figure out which laws apply to your company and what things your company needs to do. So by going through this process of reading the law, breaking it into the things that need to be done, our attorneys discovered all of the reasons why a company would need to do these things. Let me give you an example. Let's say that there's a policy that's required if you have 5 or more employees in a state. Well, the requirement is 5 or more employees. So the workplace profile, the interactive software, asks questions like, do you have 5 or more employees in the state? And by knowing that information, it can go into this list of policies that have been created in the platform, grab them, bring them out for you, and put them into your HR content, because all of this is HR content. All these things are things that we need to have available, HR content, to either share with employees or have on hand when needed. So that HR content automatically gets created by having a workplace profile that asks the right questions. Also, checklists are the list of things that need to be done. Those can get automatically created. And then handbook presentations, because let's be real, people would rather watch videos of this stuff than read paper. So having a platform that takes all of this information and not only grabs it in order to make sure that you have what you need, but also puts it in video format so your people can watch these things as opposed to being stuck reading a traditional handbook, which often doesn't get read, makes sure that you're actually able to then go into court and tell a judge, hey, here are the videos we gave to our people. And you can see here that Bob, the person that's in front of you, viewed this policy, watched this video on December 3rd at 10 a.m., and you can prove it because all of that gets stored in your employee portal, which is how you share this information with people. And it also tracks all the things that you would need to have on hand when asked whether or not an employee did something or not. So when we talk about being compliant and reducing risk, the traditional ways that companies have gone about doing this, whether it's hiring more HR, traditional handbooks, thinking that that's going to get them compliant, which doesn't. Waiting is never a good option. Using AI, hiring a lawyer, or guessing, none of these actually result in compliance and none of them actually reduce risk. The only way to actually reduce risk is to have all of the right questions asked and answered so that you can instantly get all the right content, instantly get handbook presentations, have a checklist that you can look at and track and make sure that you're doing all the things, presenting it to your people in video form so that they can watch, listen, hear, and understand the information, and then store all of that activity, store every time they viewed something, they signed something, or acknowledged something in a portal so you can prove that you were actually compliant with all of these laws. It's a much better way to go about actually being compliant and reducing risk. Hopefully that was helpful. Thanks.